Okay, we are back in chapter 7 of Echo. Now, we're going to start talking about the Ward house. And remember, that was the people that came to visit them when they first moved in. And Ivy's mother is going to be helping Mrs. Ward with the ironing. And remember, there was a girl named Susan who wanted Ivy to come. The Ward house looked as if it belonged in a storybook instead of an orange grove. It was large and white with a steep pitched roof, and it stretched 2 stories high. Green lattice work wrapped the porch, and gingerbread trim hung from the eaves and windows. Prim and clean, the home sat in a grassy yard where the flower beds had been raked and planted with geraniums. Unlike the Yamamotos, there wasn't a dead leaf, weed, or withered blossom sullying the yard. 2 small flags hung side by side in the front window. Both had a white field, red border, and a star in the center, one with a blue star, the other gold. "Mama, the house. It's beautiful," said Ivy, as they climbed from the truck that afternoon to pick up the ironing. "It is lovely, isn't it?" said Mama. They walked up the front path to the door. Ivy whispered, "What if Mr. Ward is here?" "Just be polite, and remember, not everything is as it seems. I'm sure he's not as unfriendly on the inside as he appears on the outside." Ivy rang the bell. They heard chimes and then pounding footsteps. The door flung open and Susan stood before them grinning. Her hair was braided and she wore a green sweater over a white blouse with a lace trim collar. Ivy ran her hands over Fernando's jacket and her dungarees and felt as if she should have worn something nicer. "Come in," said Susan. "My mother said to tell you she will be right back. She's in the garage. Ivy, look at my hair. I did it just like yours." Ivy tried not to gawk at the splendor as she followed Mama inside the front hall. An oak staircase led to the second story. To the left was a parlor with burgundy claw-footed couches. A Christmas tree touched the ceiling and was decorated with glass ornaments and topped with a golden-haired angel. Ivy had never seen such luxury. Susan had everything: a fancy house, beautiful clothes, and a pretty face. "Want to see my room?" she asked Ivy. Ivy looked up at Mama and nodded. "Maybe it is better if you stay with me," said Mama. "It's okay, Mrs. Lopez," said Susan. "Bertina's daughter always came to my room, and she was only 5 years old." Mama relented for just a few minutes. Ivy followed Susan up the stairs into a bedroom 3 times the size of hers. There was a white dresser and vanity, matching nightstand, and a canopied bed with a white chenille spread. One of the double closet doors was open, revealing a row of dresses. The room looked like a picture from the Sears catalog, the one Ivy and Fernando used to huddle over, dreaming of what they would purchase if they had the money. Suddenly, Ivy's excitement about her own new bedroom began to wither. Isn't it interesting how seeing someone's nice things can make you, when you were perfectly fine before, but now seeing what someone else has kind of makes your excitement go away, even when you were grateful before. Did Susan know how lucky she was? It didn't seem fair, somehow, after seeing the Yamamoto's house that morning and thinking of her own small room with the faded wallpaper, that Susan had so much. Susan pointed to the harmonica poking from Ivy's jacket pocket. "Can you play something?" Swallowing her jealousy, Ivy said, "Sure." She pulled it out and played Jingle Bells. Susan clapped when she finished. "That was great." "Thanks. I was going to be on the radio and perform a solo before we had to come here." Ivy felt a stab of regret. "The radio? Wow! You should join the orchestra," said Susan. "Anybody in 5th or 6th who wants to can. There's an orientation meeting next Thursday after school, and then lessons start in January after vacation. I bet you'd be good at flute. That's what I'm going to play." "I wish I could. I don't have a flute, and I've never had any lessons." "You don't need a flute," said Susan. "Mr. Daniels, the orchestra director, loans you one and teaches you how to play. We take lessons for 3 months and then practice all together as an orchestra after that. There's a recital in June and everything." "I know because my brothers play clarinet." Susan grinned. "If you join, we could be together every Thursday after school." Miss Delgado had said she could learn almost any instrument if she tried, and Ivy wanted to try. I'll ask my parents. If they say yes, my mom can give you a ride home on Thursday after the meeting since we have to stay later than the bus. Susan nodded toward Ivy's harmonica. I never played one before. Is it hard? If you have one, I can teach you. In my brother's room. Come on. She motioned for Ivy to follow. Down the hall, they entered an even larger bedroom. All the furniture, the twin beds, the dressers, and desks were made of knotty pine. A large framed photograph of a uniformed soldier sat on each dresser, one of them draped with medals. Susan rummaged through the top drawer of one of the desks. She nodded to the photos. Those are my brothers, Donald and Tom. Tom is in the Army and drives a tank, and Donald... Frowning, she closed the drawer and opened the next one down. She held up a harmonica. I knew there was one in here somewhere. Ivy smiled. I have a booklet at home that tells you how to play, step by step. I can bring it to you. Mama's and Mrs. Ward's voices floated up from downstairs. I better go, said Ivy. Want to be tomorrow between the groves? You just walk all the way through the one behind your house to the division road. There's an old wagon there. She held up her harmonica. You can give me my first lesson. 2:00? Ivy nodded. Okay. Promise, said Susan, sounding as if she didn't believe Ivy. Promise. Ivy hurried downstairs. Susan followed and never stopped waving from the porch as Ivy and Mama climbed into the truck and backed slowly down the long drive. Susan seems nice, said Mama. Mama, you should see her room. It looks like a princess sleeps there. Her closet is filled with dresses. I wish I had just half of her dresses. She has everything. Ivy, I don't like to hear you sounding so envious. Yes, she has things, but they are just that, things. She is a girl like you, and it is nice for you to know someone your age who lives nearby. I don't know why she wants to be my friend. She must have dozens. Of course, she couldn't ever be my best friend because of Araceli. Maybe she wants to be your friend because she needs one, said Mama. And Ivy, you can have more than one best friend. Oh, no, Mama, that is Araceli's place in my heart. Mama smiled. Your heart is bigger than you think. Ivy watched Susan and the house with the flags in the front window grow smaller. Mama, what are those flags for? Each star is for a soldier, for one of their sons in the war. We should have one for our house, said Ivy, for Fernando, but maybe a gold one. They're prettier. Ivy Maria, do not ever say such a thing. Mama kept one hand on the steering wheel and with the other made the sign of the cross. Why not? Asked Ivy. The gold star is for a soldier who has died. Okay, so when a family had people away that were serving in the war, they had flags that they would hang in their window to represent that. And the blue one meant that they had a soldier that was serving, and then the gold one meant that they had someone that had served in the military and had died. So you have a question on your papers that asks you what the flags symbolize and what does that tell us about the Ward family. And remember, let's go back a little bit. When Susan goes into the room to look for the harmonica, she says, those are my brothers, Donald and Tom. Tom is in the Army and drives the tank, and Donald, and then she pauses and doesn't finish. And now that we know what the flags mean, what does that tell us about Donald? That tells us that he's probably the one that died. Okay? All right. So in this chapter, we see Ivy seeing Susan and seeing that she has everything and not really understanding why she wants to be her friend. But there are lots of things that money can't buy, that having a whole bunch of dresses can't fix for you, that having a nice house can't fix. So I want you to give me several. Now we know one of them is friends, but I want you to give me some other things, okay? If someone has mentioned something, you try to come up with something different. So below in the comments, I want you to name one thing that money can't buy. So money cannot buy blank, okay? What is something that having a bunch of money cannot fix. Okay,